Student Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Welcome back, students, for the second session of the chapter Sectors of the Indian Economy. Let us revise what we had done for the first session. We had studied about the economic activities, right? What is an economic activity? Any activity through which we produce a good or we generate service or we render service and thereby we earn income. So when we earn income by producing a good or by generating service, that is called an economic activity. And we tried to classify these economic activities into different sectors. And to classify these economic activities into different sectors, we use different criterias. Okay. So according to that, we classified the economic activity as per the nature of activity or how the goods are produced. And we had three classifications. Okay. We had three parts. And they were primary sector, secondary sector and the tertiary sector. What is primary sector? When we produce goods by exploiting natural resources. Okay, like we produce cotton, we produce groundnut, we produce sunflower. Okay, in all these cases we are using natural resources like soil, sunlight, water from the rainfall. So therefore, these activities are part of the primary sector and the product is the natural product like cotton or maybe sunflower. Okay. And these products form the base for all other products which are subsequently made. Therefore, they are called primary. That is what we had seen. And primary sector is also called agriculture and related sector. Then secondary sector where we convert the natural product in a different form and we produce another product of higher value, and this sector is called the industrial sector or the secondary sector. Then we had the tertiary sector which provides services and supports the primary and the secondary sector. Therefore, it is called the service sector because it generates only services and doesn't produce any goods. Now all these three sectors are interdependent on each other. They are interdependent on each other. And we also saw that in each sector goods and services are produced. And we take the final value. That is, we take the final value of the product to calculate the total production of that particular sector. So we take values of all the products which are manufactured in a particular sector and we calculate how much it has produced in a year. So likewise, we have seen production in different sectors. Okay, like primary sector, secondary sector and the tertiary sector. We also saw how the GDP is calculated. And what is GDP? The sum value of goods and services produced in all three sectors of the economy in a particular year. That gives us the GDP. We have also seen how GDP is calculated. It is calculated by a ministry in the central government in association with the state government and the union territories, where the government departments of the state government and the union territories assist the central government in calculating the GDP. We also compared the three sectors and we saw which sector was more dominant at a particular point of time. And we came to a conclusion that in 2003 the tertiary sector was the most important sector as far as value or the production is concerned. The tertiary sector was the most dominating or the rising or the important sector in the Indian economy, and today also it is the most important producing sector in the Indian economy. We also saw what is underemployment, and we saw different ways through which we can generate more employment in the rural areas, okay, by constructing dams, by constructing canals, okay, by improving the agricultural infrastructure, by developing rural roads, storage facilities for the farmers so they can store their products and sell it when the prices are high in the market, and how the government can help the farmers by providing them cheap credit or loans at a very low rate of interest so that they can increase their income, as well as we can generate more employment in the rural areas. We also saw in semi-rural areas, if we can start processing industries, or we can start honey collection centers, or we can develop, let us say, tourism in a particular area, or a regional handicraft industry, so we can generate more employment. We also saw that government introduced a very important scheme. It is also known as Right to Work, that is National Rural Employment Guaranteed Act 2005, which is providing livelihood to large number of people, okay, which is assuring 100 days employment to the people, and if that employment is not provided to them, then the government pays them unemployment allowance. And at the same time, this scheme is also developing the agricultural land which is available in our country, so that we can increase employment and improve our agriculture. So we can classify economic activities in different ways. We saw the first classification according to the nature of activity. Now we will go to the second classification, okay, and that is condition of employment, or how people are employed, the way people are employed and the condition of their work. According to this, we can classify the sectors into two types. One is organized sector and the second is the unorganized sector. Now, Kamal works in an office. She has fixed working hours. She works from 9:30 till 5:30. She gets many other benefits, like she gets paid leaves, she gets sick leaves, and if she works for extra time, she is paid overtime by her employer. So there are lots of facilities for her in the office, okay, but even after her retirement, she will be getting lots of facilities. That is, she will be getting pension, okay, at the time of retirement she will get gratuity, okay, she also has provident fund. So there are lots of facilities which are there for Kamal, and her job is secured. When she was appointed, she was given an appointment letter which specified the terms and conditions of her work. So her job is very secured and she is very happy with her job. Now you will know, you will understand that she works in the organized sector. Okay. Now, what is organized sector? Now, organized sector covers those places of work where the terms of employment are regular and therefore people have assured work. Okay, so she works in the organized sector and the terms of her employment are regular. She has assured work. This means that they are registered with the government and her employer has to follow all the rules and regulations which are there in the various acts. There are various acts which are formulated by the government, like Factory Act, Minimum Wage Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Shop and Establishment Act, and n number of acts are there which are to be followed by the organized sector. So therefore, her job is very secured. Plus she gets lots of benefits, like she gets paid leaves, Payment during the holidays. Her working hours are fixed, as I have mentioned, 9:30 to 5:30, and if she works extra, she is paid for overtime. She gets some monetary benefits for overtime, and she also has lots of other benefits. Even after retirement, she will at the time of retirement, she will get provident fund. After retirement, she will get pension. At the time of retirement, she'll get gratuity. So since her terms of employment are regular, her employment is secured, and she enjoys the security of work along with other benefits, and therefore people want to work in the organized sector because they get lots of benefit, so like proper drinking facilities, medical allowances, and all other facilities which are there as per the rules and regulations. Therefore people enjoy and people want to work in the organized sector because they get lots of benefits. This sector is called organized sector because they have to follow certain processes and procedures. Like when any person is employed in an office or for a government job, there are certain procedures and processes like interview is conducted, written exam, oral exam, or oral interview or written interview, and then they are sent for medical examination, fitness test. All these things are done in the organized sector. So therefore this sector is following all the rules and regulations and process and procedures before employing any person in their offices. There are some other people who are actually self-employed, but they also register themselves in the organized sector and follow all the rules and regulations which are prescribed by the government in different acts. Now the next sector, unorganized sector. Now what is unorganized sector? The unorganized sector is characterized by small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of the government. Here there are rules and regulations, but most of the time they are not followed. Now in this sector, the workers are mostly exploited. The employers take advantage of the workers, mainly because at the time of employment they are not given any appointment letter. Okay, they are just casually hired by the employer. So what are the disadvantages of this sector, or the people who are working in this sector are facing lots of problems because their jobs are low paid and often not regular. They are not paid for overtime. They don't have paid leaves, paid holidays, and leave due to sickness. Neither they get any benefits like provident fund, gratuity, or they don't get pension after retirement, since their terms are not regular and their job is also not secure. In this category we have daily wage laborers, we have people working in shops who are employed on daily basis. Okay, so a farmer hiring a person in his field as per the seasonal requirements. So all this come under the unorganized sector. So people prefer to work in the organized sector because they get lots of benefits, and people in the unorganized sector are denied of all these benefits. How to protect workers in the unorganized sector? See, in rural areas, landless agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers need to be supported through adequate facility for timely delivery of seeds. They should be provided agricultural input, cheap credit facilities so that they get loan at a very less rate of interest. Storage facilities should be provided so that they can store their product and sell the product when the prices are high in the market. Marketing output should be provided to them. Now many workers are working in the factories and in the other units are belonging to the scheduled caste community, scheduled tribes and other backward communities, and first of all these workers are low paid and they also have to face social discrimination. So these workers have to be protected against social discrimination as well as they have to be given economic security. Now in small scale industries, street vendors etc. needs government support for procuring raw material and also for marketing their output. Now we are going to go towards the last classification of sectors, and this sector is classified on the basis of ownership. Who is the owner of the asset and who is responsible for delivering the services. And according to this, we have two parts. We have the public sector and we have the private sector. As the name suggests, public, it belongs to the people, that means to the government. Okay. In public sector, government owns most of the assets and provides all the services. So all these services which we are getting today, like health services and other services, if you can see on your screen, like Indian Railways, postal services, fire force, ferry boat services which are provided to us by the government of Goa, all these are part of the public sector. And the main aim of the public sector is to provide services to the people, okay, and they provide these services to the people from the money which is collected from the taxes and other sources. So in public sector, the assets are owned by the government and government is responsible for providing the services to the people, and their main aim is to provide service to the people, and they do it from the money which is collected from the taxes. Okay. Now the next sector is the private sector. In private sector, the ownership of the asset and the delivery of the services is in the hands of private individuals or companies. So the private sector is controlled by individuals or by companies, and their main aim is to make profit. We have many private companies which are providing us different services, like in telecommunication, in consumer goods. Okay. So these companies provide us services and their main aim is to make profit. Now among these two sectors, if we see, the sector which is most important to us is the public sector. Okay, it is playing a very important role, and there are many reasons for that. And the first reason which we are going to take up now is private sector will not provide us services or facilities at a reasonable cost. Okay, so private sector is not going to provide us services like dams, bridges or infrastructure project at a very low cost. They are going to charge us. They are going to charge us for their services, and their charges will be very high. But when the government constructs bridges or provides different facilities to us, they don't charge us. For example, recently we have built Atal Setu. I hope everyone has seen Atal Setu. You have enjoyed the view from the Atal Setu. Okay, and this facility, or we use this bridge free of cost. Why? Because it is built by the public sector, it is built by the government. So therefore, the public sector is very important because they are going to provide us services and facilities which the private sector will not provide us at a reasonable cost. So the government has to incur heavy expenditure in the public sector to provide services. Now government also bears cost when they provide services to us. Okay, like in case of the food security system, where we are provided food grains or essential commodities through ration shops or fair price shop, where the government purchases the food grains from the farmers at a price called MSP, that is minimum support price, and sells it to the people at issue price, which is quite lower than the minimum support price, and government bears all this cost of providing essential commodities to the people, and that comes under the public sector. Government government also has the responsibility of providing basic facilities to the people, as we have discussed earlier, facilities which are related to education, health, transport, communication. Most of these facilities are provided to us, basic facilities, law and order, all these things are provided to us by the government. So government also takes the responsibility for providing us the basic facilities. Therefore, public sector is very, very important. Then government also pays attention to human development such as availability of safe drinking water, housing facilities, sanitation facilities. All these facilities are provided to us by the government through the public sector. Therefore, the public sector plays a very, very important role. So students, we are coming towards the end of this lesson. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson, and now I declare that this lesson is over. Thank you very much.